Hey guys, this video is going to be about a topic I've seen going around the internet known as the Saturn return. Now, if you happen to be near that age between 28 to 30, or it could be that you might be just a year or two before that period, you might be feeling kind of anxious because potentially you've read some articles online about how the Saturn return is a super stressful time. So first of all, let me explain what exactly is a Saturn return. So as you may know, Saturn is a planet and it occupies a specific position at the time of your birth. So looking at your chart, it could be in the 6th house, it could be in the 10th house. But you see, when we call it a Saturn return, because the planet Saturn takes 28 years to make around your chart. So when it returns to its original position, that's when it's called a Saturn return. Now this occurs at between the age of 28 to 30, and the exact time that it occurs is different for each person depending on where exactly your Saturn happens to be. So the effect of a Saturn return is probably not as scary as you think it is, because after all, the planet Saturn represents your responsibility, being stable, and frankly, thinking long term. And so some of the few things that tend to occur with the Saturn return, to me, the most common I've seen is people changing their careers. Now, especially if you spend your 20s sort of like bumming around in like random jobs that were sort of recommendations from other people. But you may find that once you hit your Saturn return, there's a lot of thought here in terms of, I've got another 30 to 40 years to go in my career. Now, is this something that I really want to do for the rest of my life? Now, if the answer is no, the chances are pretty high that people make changes to their career. And this can occur as people taking on a completely different career. And it was like that for me. I came from the safety industry, and when I was 28, I went and incorporated my own astrology academy. So that's one example of a massive career change. It is also very common for lots of people to commit to a relationship around that time. So this can occur, say, in the form of somebody deciding to marry a long-term partner, somebody you've been dating for a few years. And once you hit your Saturn return, you're like, okay, we're ready to adopt. We're going to buy a house, we're going to set up a family, we were actually going to get married to each other officially. So that occurs. But you find that there are also, sometimes the Saturn return can also result in some endings. Now, especially as some people go into careers very early in their lives and then discover by the time they're about 28 that it's just not working. And occasionally it can be very painful, even scary for somebody to step out of that comfort zone. Now, sometimes when it comes to relationships, the Saturn return can also signal an end. Now, this can occur if you've been with somebody for a very long time, and especially if it's gotten to the point where you just continue a relationship because we've been together for a long time. And once you don't see a future, the Saturn return period can also mean an ending to relationship. This can occur also in marriages, and is probably one of the reasons why potentially the endings of relationships tend to generally occur around that age group. One of the biggest misconceptions about the Saturn return is that the year of your Saturn return is the stressful year. Now, here's where this is not actually accurate. I found in my experience that the real stress period is in the year just before the Saturn return. So let's just say if your return is on your 28th year, it is actually your 27th year that is the most stressful. Usually because most people find themselves hanging on to situations that no longer work for them. And the reason why that's more stressful than the Saturn return year is because by the time you hit 28, it's the moment where someone says, you know what, I'm done, right? And I'm going to be responsible. I will make a decision. This is it. I'm just going to stop that. Okay, so for those of you who might be wondering, if you happen to be 27 years old and you're wondering, oh my God, like this is a really hard time, and I thought the hard time was supposed to be next year. Well, here's the good news, that life is going to get better once that Saturn hits itself. Now, if you are undergoing this period, I call it a rite of passage. What's the best way to make use of this period is to really give yourself some time to think about what it is that you want to accomplish in your life. And very often, it requires you to consider what do you want as opposed to what has been constructed for you. Some people may find that you may choose careers away from your education background. So maybe you were trained in medicine, but at age 28, you may have realized, I don't want to be a doctor, right? Or perhaps that there are expectations that you have in your personal life and in your relationships that may not conform to a lot of the conventional wisdoms that you feel you don't resonate with. And this is a time for honesty, it's a time for authenticity, and the Saturn return is a great time to establish the kind of life that you want to set up for yourself in your adult life, and quite frankly, for the rest of your life. Right? So if you're undergoing your Saturn return, I hope this was useful for you. And for more of such videos, do subscribe to my channel. I talk a lot about how astrology contributes to our well-being as well as to our psychological development. So I'll see you guys on my next video.